Sometimes the loudest silence is when you realize no one is coming to save you. You look around for support, for help, for someone to believe in you, but all you see is empty space. That's the moment life truly begins, because when you stop waiting for a hand to pull you up, you finally start climbing. The truth is brutal. No one will fight your battles. No one will feel your hunger. No one will bleed for your dreams. You have to build yourself from the dirt, from the doubt, from the pain. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night becomes your fuel. Doing it alone doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're unstoppable. Because once you've learned to walk through the fire without anyone holding your hand, you become someone no storm can break. Don't fear loneliness. Embrace it. That's where strength is forged. That's where greatness is born. The world respects results, not excuses. So stop explaining your struggle. Show them your rise. Do it alone. And one day, they'll all say they always believed in you. The power of isolation. There comes a time in every person's life when the noise around them becomes too loud. Opinions, judgments, expectations. And in the middle of that chaos, a small voice inside whispers it's time to stand alone. That moment is terrifying, yet it's the beginning of true power. Isolation strips away the comfort of dependency. It forces you to face your reflection without filters, without praise, without distraction. In that silence, you begin to see who you really are, not who the world told you to be. People often fear being alone because they associate it with emptiness. But isolation isn't emptiness. It's a sacred space for transformation. When you detach from noise, you start hearing your own mind, your own purpose. Every great achiever has walked through the dark corridors of solitude, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. They learned that greatness doesn't grow in crowds. It grows in the quiet corners of determination. The power of isolation is the moment you stop needing validation and start building conviction. It's where the real war is fought, not against the world, but against your own weakness. Isolation becomes the silent teacher that no mentor can replace. When the world is absent, your inner world begins to awaken. It's in those quiet hours that you learn how to push yourself, how to create discipline, and how to move forward when no one is watching. Think about the story of Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most revolutionary philosophers in human history. Nietzsche spent most of his life alone, misunderstood by society, ridiculed by peers, and alienated from those closest to him. Yet in that loneliness, he found the strength to think differently, to challenge morality, faith, and existence itself. His ideas reshaped philosophy forever, but they were born in the crucible of isolation. That's what solitude does. It frees your mind from conformity. When you walk alone, you stop following paths and start creating them. The crowd offers comfort, but comfort kills creativity. True creation is born in silence, where your thoughts become your only companions. Being alone is not a punishment, it's preparation. The universe often isolates you before it elevates you. People leave, doors close, opportunities vanish, not because you're unlucky, but because you're being molded into someone who doesn't depend on others to move. When you're forced to handle life alone, you develop muscles no one can see. Emotional resilience, mental sharpness, and unshakable belief. Think about how many times in life you were surrounded by people but still felt misunderstood. That's because loneliness isn't about physical absence. It's about spiritual misalignment. The truth is, only in solitude can you align yourself with your true purpose. When you're alone, you can listen to your intuition, the voice that gets drowned out by the world's opinions. The power of isolation is that it doesn't just build you, it purifies you. It filters out the noise, the doubts, and the lies you've been told about your own potential. Isolation tests your patience. It shows you who you are when no one is clapping, when no one is checking on you, when no one is watching. Many people quit during this stage because they mistake silence for failure. But the truth is, silence is where the seeds of greatness germinate. Consider Nikola Tesla, a man who lived his life on the edge of genius and madness, often alone and misunderstood. While others chased fame and approval, Tesla chased ideas that changed the world. His solitude gave him the freedom to think without limitation, to create without judgment. The light you see today, the electricity that powers your home, is partly the product of a man who embraced isolation as his laboratory. He didn't need validation, he needed focus. That's the kind of strength that solitude breeds, the kind that allows you to build legacies while the world is sleeping. When you learn to embrace being alone, you gain something extraordinary: clarity. Without those distractions of other people's opinions, you begin to see your own life with precision. You begin to understand what truly matters and what was merely noise. Most people spend their entire lives trying to fit in, to be accepted, to be seen. But fitting in often means losing yourself. When you step away from the crowd, you give yourself permission to exist authentically. You stop chasing what others think you should have and start focusing on what truly fulfills you. Solitude helps you rebuild your foundation on your own terms. It teaches you to find joy in progress, not in approval. It's in this process that your character hardens, your purpose sharpens, and your vision clears. You start realizing that isolation was never loneliness, it was alignment. Alignment with your destiny, your values, and your true identity. Isolation doesn't just build leaders, it exposes imposters. It reveals who's truly driven and who's merely motivated by attention. In solitude, you can't fake discipline, you can't pretend to be strong. You either are or you break. But when you survive those lonely nights, you come out different. You become unshakable. You become the person who can walk into a room and command respect without saying a word, not because you want validation, but because your energy speaks for itself. Take the example of Bruce Lee. Long before the world idolized him, he spent years training alone, perfecting his craft, refining his body, studying philosophy. His solitude was his weapon. He knew that mastery couldn't be achieved in public. It was born in private. That's the power of isolation. It makes you fall in love with the process, not the praise. It teaches you that real confidence isn't loud. It's silent and unbreakable. In the end, isolation becomes the stage before transformation. It's the period where you lose everything familiar, people, comfort, certainty, and you stand alone with nothing but your will. Many can't handle that stage. They run back to the noise because silence terrifies them. But those who endure it evolve. They rise with a sense of independence so powerful that nothing external can control them anymore. They stop chasing validation and start living by vision. That's when the shift happens. When your purpose becomes louder than your loneliness, you begin to appreciate solitude not as absence, but as abundance. The abundance of focus, growth, and peace. Every moment alone becomes a step toward mastery. Every second of silence becomes a conversation with your destiny. And though isolation might feel like the end, it's truly the beginning of everything you're meant to be. Pain builds power. Pain. It's the one thing we all try to avoid, yet it's the only thing that truly transforms us. Every scar, every heartbreak, every loss carries a lesson that strength and comfort will never teach. When everything falls apart and your world feels like it's burning down, that's where real power is forged. People see pain as punishment, but it's the greatest mentor you'll ever have. It humbles you, exposes your weaknesses, and then challenges you to rise above them. The moments you thought would break you are the ones that built the foundation of who you are today. Without pain, there's no purpose. Without struggle, there's no story. Every great individual has been baptized by fire. Molded by rejection, failure, and loneliness. Pain refines you the way fire refines gold. It burns away everything false until only strength remains. The ones who learn to embrace pain rather than run from it become unstoppable because they know every ounce of suffering carries hidden energy that can be turned into progress, focus, and greatness. Pain doesn't destroy you, it awakens you. It reminds you that even in your lowest moments, you are still breathing, still standing, still capable. There's something sacred about pain. It teaches you more about yourself than comfort ever could. When you're happy, you celebrate, but when you're hurting, you grow. In the silence of suffering, you discover your real potential. Every sleepless night, every disappointment, every time life kicked you down, those were the training grounds for your power. You don't realize it in the moment, but each hardship is shaping you for something greater. Think about how a diamond is formed under extreme heat and pressure. Without that intensity, it would remain just a piece of carbon. You are no different. The pressure you face today is building the version of you that can't be broken tomorrow. People often say they want strength, but they pray to avoid the very pain that creates it. Growth doesn't come from what's easy, it comes from endurance. The longer you can stand in the fire, the brighter you'll shine when you emerge. Pain reveals who you really are. When life is easy, anyone can smile, anyone can be kind, anyone can stay motivated. But when you're drowning, when you're alone, when you have every reason to give up, that's when your true character speaks. Pain separates the pretenders from the warriors. It shows you who deserves a place in your future and who is only meant for a chapter of your past. Sometimes the pain isn't even from failure, but from letting go of people, habits, or dreams that no longer serve your growth. That's the cruel beauty of it. You must bleed to become better. You must lose to learn. Every time your heart breaks, it doesn't mean the end. It means you're being rewritten into someone stronger. The deeper the pain, the deeper the purpose it's preparing you for. What feels like suffering now is often just preparation for the person you're destined to become. Let me tell you a story, a short but powerful one. There was once a young man who wanted to climb mountains. He failed again and again. Every time he climbed, the storms threw him down. His friends mocked him, saying he'd never reach the top. One day, after his 10th fall, his hands bleeding and his legs trembling, he sat alone near the mountain base. A shepherd passing by looked at him and said, "The mountain never gets smaller. You just get stronger." Those words stuck with him. He trained harder, endured more pain, and climbed again. This time, he reached the summit. When he stood at the top, he realized the mountain hadn't changed. He had. That's what pain does. It doesn't make life easier. It makes you capable of facing life as it is. The power wasn't in conquering the mountain. It was in conquering himself. Pain is the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. Pain builds perspective. When you've been broken before, you stop fearing the cracks. You start seeing life differently. Small problems don't bother you anymore. Fake people don't fool you, and temporary failures don't define you. You begin to understand that pain isn't permanent, it's a passing teacher. Once you learn its lessons, you become immune to weakness. Look at the story of Helen Keller, a woman born both blind and deaf. The world saw her as broken, but she refused to see herself that way. Through years of unimaginable struggle and frustration, she learned to communicate, to write, and to inspire millions. She turned her pain into light for others. That's real power. The ability to transform suffering into service. Every moment you endure teaches you empathy, resilience, and gratitude. You stop asking, why me, and start saying, try me. Because once you've faced enough pain, nothing can intimidate you anymore. The truth is, pain is the price of evolution. You cannot reach new levels of strength while living inside your comfort zone. Pain stretches you. It forces you to break patterns, to adapt, to grow. The strongest trees have the deepest roots because they've survived the harshest storms. In the same way, the strongest souls are those who've suffered deeply but refuse to stay broken. Pain forces you to self-reflect, to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored. It doesn't just challenge your body or your emotions, it challenges your spirit. It asks, how bad do you really want it? And what are you willing to endure? Every tear you've cried was not wasted, it was watering your resilience. Every heartbreak was polishing your heart for something greater. When you stop running from pain and start walking through it, you stop being fragile. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become a creator of destiny. The most powerful people in history didn't escape pain. They embraced it. They understood that suffering was the toll for significance. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, stripped of his freedom, his family, and his future. Yet when he emerged, he didn't come out bitter. He came out wiser, calmer, and stronger. And the pain that could have destroyed him instead built his legacy. That's the paradox of pain. It either breaks you or builds you, and the choice is always yours. Those who use pain as motivation rise higher than those who use it as an excuse. Because pain is energy, raw, burning energy, and if you channel it right, it can power your entire life. When you carry your scars with pride instead of shame, you stop being defined by what hurt you and start being defined by what you survived. That's when pain truly becomes power, when it stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest weapon. Silence speaks success. Silence, the rarest strength in a world that never stops talking. Everyone wants to be heard, but few have the discipline to stay quiet and listen. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's the art of mastering your emotions, your impulses, and your energy. The loudest person in the room is often the weakest one. True power doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through calmness, through presence, through restraint. In silence, you learn to see things that noise hides. You begin to understand that not every battle deserves a response. Not every insult requires defense, and not every opportunity needs noise to be noticed. There's a quote that says, "The tree that bears the most fruit bows the lowest." That's what silence is. Humility in motion, strength disguised as stillness. Success grows in silence because growth requires focus, and focus dies in chaos. When you stay silent, you stay centered, and when you're centered, you can't be shaken. The calm mind always wins, not because it's smarter, but because it's stable when the world is burning. Silence teaches you self-mastery. When you stop reacting to every distraction, you reclaim your peace. The world is addicted to noise, opinions, drama, validation. But silence breaks that addiction. It teaches you that not everything needs your attention. You start choosing your words, your battles, and your emotions carefully. You stop chasing arguments and start chasing alignment. The powerful don't respond to everything. They respond to what matters. Silence allows your energy to build instead of being wasted on proving yourself. Someone once said, the more you talk about what you're going to do, the less likely you are to do it. That's the truth of modern life. People speak about their goals, but silence achieves them. When you're silent, You're not ignoring the world. You're listening to your inner strategy. You're conserving energy, observing patterns, and moving deliberately. The world might mistake your silence for absence, but it's actually preparation. Silence refines your perception. When you learn to quiet your mind, you begin to see people and situations for what they truly are. You notice who's authentic and who's pretending. You recognize what aligns with your purpose and what distracts from it. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. It makes you dangerous in the best way because you become unpredictable. You don't reveal your emotions, your plans, or your weaknesses. People can't manipulate what they don't understand. The most powerful moves are made in silence. Success rarely announces itself with noise. It arrives quietly, shocking everyone who underestimate your calm. In silence, you don't seek validation, you build value. Every second you spend listening instead of reacting, observing instead of arguing, is a step toward mastery. Silence is not passive, it's preparation disguised as peace. Silence also builds discipline, the kind that separates amateurs from masters. It takes strength to speak, but it takes greater strength to remain silent when your ego wants to explode. Every time you stay calm in chaos, you're building emotional armor. Every time you choose silence over drama, you're showing the universe you're ready for higher levels of peace. There's wisdom in the words, "He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know." Silence isn't about holding your tongue, it's about holding your power. You learn that your time, your thoughts, and your words are sacred. You stop oversharing your plans and start executing them in private. You begin to find comfort in solitude and confidence in minimalism. Success becomes less about showing and more about knowing. You don't have to prove anything anymore. Your results speak louder than your words ever could. Silence transforms your energy. When you stay quiet, your thoughts become sharper, your focus becomes deeper, and your presence becomes magnetic. People start to notice your calm without understanding its source. They feel your power but can't define it, and that's exactly how it should be. Silence is your shield against chaos. It allows you to control your reactions and keep your peace in situations that would break others. It teaches you that revenge, arguments, and explanations are all forms of weakness because they come from a need to prove something. When you're truly powerful, you no longer need to prove, you simply move. Silence turns you into the observer, the strategist, the one who never loses composure. You start realizing that peace is the highest currency in life and silence is how you earn it. Silence reveals success long before it's visible. When you're working quietly, people may think you've disappeared, but in reality, you're evolving. The seeds of greatness are always planted in silence. No one sees the hours of grind, the nights of discipline, the sacrifices made in solitude. They only see the bloom. That's why silence is misunderstood. People think it's absence when it's actually creation. Every success story begins in the shadows, behind closed doors, in quiet rooms, far from attention. The universe rewards those who respect the process, not those who seek applause. Silence protects your dreams from premature judgment. It allows you to fail, adjust, and rise, all without noise. When you finally emerge, it looks effortless, but only you know the storms you stayed quiet through. That's the silent language of success: consistency without attention, faith without announcement. Silence becomes your weapon in a world that wants you to speak before you think. The more you embrace it, the more control you gain over your life. When others argue, you observe. When others boast, you build. When others react, you respond with grace. You start realizing that silence isn't emptiness, it's strength disguised as peace. The world may not understand it, but it feels it. There's a reason still waters run deep. Their calm hides their depth. Silence allows you to be grounded while the world trembles around you. It teaches you that success doesn't shout, it whispers through results. So remain silent when you must, work when no one's watching, and let your life become the loudest statement you'll ever make. Because in the end, silence is the sleep that nourishes wisdom. In the end, everything we've spoken about, walking alone, embracing pain, and mastering silence, all lead to one undeniable truth. Strength is built in solitude, power is born from struggle, and success is spoken through silence. Life will test you in ways you never expect. It will take people from you. It will break your plans. It will leave you with nothing but yourself. And that's exactly where your real journey begins. When you learn to stand alone, you stop begging for support and start building your own foundation. When you learn to endure pain, you stop fearing failure and start using it as fuel. And when you learn the art of silence, you stop reacting to noise and start creating meaning. The path to greatness is never crowded. It's quiet, lonely, and sometimes brutal. But those who dare to keep walking, even when no one believes, even when everything hurts, even when all is silent, those are the ones who find true peace and unstoppable strength. You don't need approval to rise. You don't need applause to succeed. You need courage to begin, faith to continue, and patience to finish. Remember, solitude shapes your soul, pain builds your purpose, and silence sharpens your spirit. So walk boldly into your challenges, embrace every scar, and let your results echo louder than your words ever could. Because at the end of the day, life doesn't reward noise, it rewards resilience. The world may doubt you now, but one day your silence, your scars, and your strength will speak for you louder than any voice ever could. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay focused, and never forget, the fire inside you burns brighter than any storm outside. God bless you.